Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on applied thermodynamics. Today we are going to begin a new chapter, that is axial flow compressors. So we are into the last topic of turbo machinery part. We are still left with IC engine performance and emission, and we will be covering few important topics of fuel, air and actual cycles. So here in axial flow compressors, we will be primarily focusing on construction, airfoil bleeding, lift and drag, and performance characteristics. So, without waiting much, let's begin our topic. So, first of all, if we discuss about what is the need of having axial flow compressor, then uh, we can understand it from our previous chapter itself, that was centrifugal compressors. So the efficiency of centrifugal compressor is nearly 80%. However, there are some applications where it is required that the efficiency is more than 80%. So such kind of very high efficiency, that is nearly 90% of efficiency, is achieved in case of axial flow compressor. Apart from that, whenever there is a requirement of high pressure ratio and high thrust per unit frontal area, then axial flow compressors are better. Apart from that, the pressure ratio in suppose we need to increase pressure ratio in any form of compressor, then multi-staging is essential. So doing a multi-staging in centrifugal compressor is still a very difficult task, or it becomes bulky. However, in case of axial flow compressor, the multi-staging is comparatively much easier. So mainly in axial flow compressor, the major advantage is that we obtain high thrust per unit frontal area. That is the main advantage. And as you can see here, by its name itself, we can understand that the direction of fluid flow will be axial, that is, it will be parallel to the shaft of the compressor. That's why it is known as axial flow compressor. So here let us go to the construction of axial flow compressor. Here this is the arrangement of axial flow compressor. So here we can see that here we are having main rotor shaft that is visible over here, and through this rotor there are few blades which are connected. That is, this white color are the rotor blades. So we can say that, let me denote it with R. So these are all rotor blades, and obviously this will be the moving one. These rotor blades are moving blades, as it is written over here that there are several rows of moving blades at rotor, and these black color blades which are connected or joined with the casing, these are the stator blades. So the stator blades are the fixed blades which don't rotate. So here, in this way, a combination of stator and rotor continuously forms the entire axial flow compressor. And here you can see that the flow of air is from left to right. Apart from that, let us define about a stage. So what is the stage? So here a combination of one stator blade and one rotor blade is known as a stage. So here you can see this complete stage like this, that is stator and rotor. This is known as a complete stage. And here the pressure ratio which is achieved is normally from 1.12 to 1.20. That is the pressure ratio that is achieved in a single stage. And we have several stages of multiple stators from multiple stators and multiple rotor blades. And one more thing which is important here, that the rotational speed of shaft here is 10,000 to 30,000 rotations per minute. So you can imagine that how quickly this entire compressor will be functioning. Okay, and one more thing that we need to understand, that it is ensured that the gap between the stator and rotor is minimum, or they are very close to each other, and the space which is available between two consecutive blades is kept diverging in section, diverging in shape, so that we can achieve the pressure rise here. And generally there are total 15 to 20 stages. In a complete air axial flow compressor. Now let us discuss about one more thing that is quite evident from this figure, is that the cross-sectional area of this compressor keeps on decreasing as we move further from left to right. Now what is the reason behind this? So the reason here is that as we keep on moving ahead in this compressor, the pressure increases, so this will reduce the specific volume of the fluid, or in this case it is an air. So as the volume is being reduced, so to compensate for that, the cross-sectional area is also reduced, so that the constant axial velocity is achieved throughout the axial flow compressor. So that is the reason behind having a converging area. Now the next thing here is the functioning of the axial flow compressor. So the working of axial flow compressor is very similar to the centrifugal compressor. Here in a rotor which is rotating at a 10,000 to 30,000 rpm, the energy is imparted to the fluid. The energy is imparted to the fluid, so that because of the rotor, the fluid gets kinetic energy as well as pressure energy. However, we are more interested in achieving the higher pressure energy rather than the kinetic energy. So for that purpose, here there is a provision of stator blades, which uh, which does a conversion of kinetic energy into pressure energy. So in that way, there is a conversion of kinetic to pressure energy in the stator blade. So in this way, we are getting the pressure rise throughout the axial flow compressor. Now we will move forward to our next theory, that is cascade nomenclature and terminology. So let's begin this part. So our theory is cascade nomenclature and terminology. So here, first of all, we will define two definitions. First is cascade. A row of blades representing blade ring of actual turbo machine is known as cascade. Okay, that is a cascade. Now the next definition is aerofoil. Streamlined, it is a streamlined body bounded principally by two flattened curves whose length and width are very large in comparison with its thickness. So that is the definition of aerofoil. And if we need to see the aerofoil in 3 dimensions, to understand this definition, then it can be in this way. So you can see that the length is higher, the width is also sufficient, and you can see that here the thickness is very low. So that's the case. Now here we will be focusing on the terminology, or still we are left with one more definition, that is the camber line. It is a backbone lying midway between upper and lower surfaces of the plate. That is known as camber line, and the same can be seen over here in this figure. This dotted line as the middle line, if we can see, is the camber line. So here there are two types of aerofoils. First is unsymmetrical, as it can be seen over here, and second is unsymmetrical. First is unsymmetrical and second is symmetrical. So here unsymmetrical means that the upper side and lower side are not symmetrical with each other, and I will show you the category of symmetrical blade here, where it is clearly seen that the upper side and lower side are exactly similar, and the camber line is parallel to the velocity direction of velocity of approach. So here this is parallel to direction of velocity of approach, and in case of unsymmetrical aerofoil, it is clearly evident that the cambered line is at angle with direction of angle of attack or velocity of approach. So here these are the fundamental difference between unsymmetrical aerofoil blade and symmetrical aerofoil blade. Now let's go to the nomenclature part further. So we will again utilize this figure. At the bottom. So here first is incidence angle. So it is between angle between camber line and direction of velocity of approach. The next is A. A you can see over here in this figure. Value of A is distance of point of maximum camber from leading edge. As you can see, that is over here. Then the next one is, you can see here x1 angle. X1 angle is here. For the camber line at the leading edge we have drawn a tangent, and the angle that this tangent make with this velocity of approach direction is known as camber angle. So x1 is camber angle at inlet. And x2 similarly is camber angle at outlet. So when we combine these two angles, then we get total angle. So we can say theta is equal to camber angle which is equal to x1 plus x2. So here we will further continue with this nomenclature part of this theory in our next lecture, and we will try to finish this chapter itself in our next lecture. Thank you for watching this video. Hello everyone, welcome back to online lecture series on applied thermodynamics. we are continuing our topic of axial flow compressor. In our previous lecture, we started this chapter with construction and working of axial flow compressor. So here we understood that an axial flow compressor, why it is required first of all. So we discussed that the efficiency of centrifugal compressor is comparatively low. Second is that with help of axial flow compressor we can get larger pressure ratio as well as high thrust per unit frontal area, and multi-staging in axial flow compressor is comparatively much easier than in case of centrifugal compressor. In axial flow compressor we are having several rows of fixed blades and moving blades. So one moving blade and one fixed blade constitute a stage where we are getting a pressure rise of 1.12 to 1.20, and there are around 14 to 20 stages in an axial flow compressor. The rotor shaft runs at 10,000 to 30,000 rpm. And then we discussed about unsymmetrical aerofoil blade section as well as symmetrical aerofoil blade section. We also discussed about few important definitions like what is a cascade, what is an aerofoil, and a camber line. Now we are going to continue with that nomenclature in this lecture also. So let's begin. First of all, we are going to copy this one. So few things I need to repeat here. It is between the direction of velocity of approach and cable line. Next is x1 camber angle at inlet x2 is camber angle at outlet theta is camber angle that is actually the total angle, which will be summation of x1 and x2. Then we have B as maximum camber A is distance or point of maximum camber from leading edge. Then we have the value C, which is known as chord, that is a straight line from leading edge to trailing edge. Then we have TS. See, while I am writing this, you can definitely see the same nomenclature here also. So it is easy to understand by yourself. T is the blade thickness. And T max thickness, maximum flow thickness. Now let's first copy this work into our main slides. Then let's move forward to the second nomenclature part, which is for the cascade. So this is symmetrical aerofoil plate section that we have already discussed. The next is this one, that is two blades of a cascade. So here S is the blade spacing or pitch. Then we have beta 1, that is blade angle at inlet. Alpha 1 is equal to flow angle at inlet Similarly, we can write down for beta 2 and alpha 2. Beta 2 is blade angle at outlet and alpha 2 is flow angle at outlet. The next is alpha 2 minus alpha 1 is equal to fluid deflection angle. beta 1 minus alpha 1 is equal to angle of incidence. It can be seen from the figure here that the difference between beta 1 and alpha 1 is incidence angle, that is this one. And here when we take a difference between alpha 2 and alpha 1, it gives us the fluid deflection angle. The meaning is that it is a difference between two flow angles. So it says that how much the fluid is being deflected when it passes through this blade. Last one is beta CH. Is equal to chord angle. So that's all we have in the nomenclature of cascade. So let's copy this work. So now let's move forward with our next topic here. That is drag and lift on aerofoil blades. So we are briefly going to discuss this part. Here on the first image, the pressure distribution is shown for an aerofoil blade. So on the upper side of this blade, that is the convex portion of the blade, it can be seen that here the negative pressure is generated because the fluid particles which are present over here try to move away from this blade. So here a negative pressure is generated, while and because of that this is known as a suction side. So this region is known as, this is the suction side. Here low negative pressure is generated on convex side, and if we observe the other portion here, the other side is concave side, where positive pressure is generated because the fluid particle tries to create a pressure over here, or they are trying to hit this surface, so positive pressure is generated over here. It stresses this portion, the fluid particles stresses this portion of the blade, that's why a positive pressure is generated, so that this is known as the pressure side. So essentially there are two sides of an aerofoil, pressure side and suction side. So the concave side is pressure side and convex side is suction side. Suction side is having negative pressure distribution, and the pressure side is having positive pressure distribution. So here because of this pressure, a resultant force is generated because of combination of this force, the combination of these two pressures, and this resultant force is normal to the chord. Normal to the chord line, and when we count for the two components of this resultant force, then here we are getting a drag force and a lift force. So FL is known as lift and FD is known as drag. Now we will move forward with our next topic, that is over here. And this is going to be our final topic for today. This is actually for the centrifugal compressor, but our topic is in syllabus. We are having characteristic curve for axial flow compressor, which is visible over here. So we are going to discuss on this in detail. First of all, we need to observe the x and y axis. On x axis we are having a mass flow parameter. On x axis we are having mass flow parameter, and on y axis we are having pressure ratio. And we have already discussed surge in centrifugal compressor, so similar surge phenomena is also observed over here. This is the surge line that we are observing. This is the surge line, and here on x-axis we are having mass flow parameter, and on y-axis just on y-axis there is a pressure rise. So here as I told you that this is the surge line. Now you might be confused that why so many curves are present. So here all these curves that you are observing over here are for different RPMs. So we are having a speed parameter here, which is n divided by square root of t01. So here you can see the speed parameter keeps on increasing as we move in upward direction towards right. And our design point over here is point number 1. So this is our design point, and at this design point all the velocity triangles and flow angles are in accordance with the design values. So this is the best functioning point for an axial flow compressor. And if you see, point number 1 is very close to the surge line. So even if we slide, even if there is a small decrease in the mass flow rate, this design point is very vulnerable to reach to this surge line. So here once if there is a slight decrease in this mass flow rate, then the pressure ratio will increase, that is P02 upon P01 will increase. So this will lead to increase in density. This will also lead to increase in density over here. And what will happen, that this will reduce the velocity because Vf is equal to mass flow rate upon rho V, rho A. So the velocity of flow is reduced, and it is quite evident because here mass flow parameter is also reducing. So this will result in increased incidence loss, incidence angle, and this will give us stalling here in the later stages. To repeat this part, the velocity of flow will reduce, and this will give us the positive incidence, and it will yield the stalling phenomena in the later stages. Now let us say we go into the point number 2. That is, here we have increased the mass flow rate, so pressure ratio has been decreased, so Vf has increased. That is the complete reverse thing of what we have discussed. So Vf will increase, so it will give us decrease in incidence angle, and that will cause stalling here with negative incidence. So we have discussed these points. Point number 5 will be the surging, and point 2 here will be stalling with negative incidence. Now you can see here that if we focus on point number 4 here, so here for a smaller pressure ratio reduction, for small pressure reduction, here there will be a decrease in mass flow rate. Very sharp decrease in mass flow rate can be seen over here. So here Vf will also reduce, which results in increased incidence angle, and this will create stalling with positive incidence. So here you can see that the pressure ratio, for a small pressure ratio change, there is a greater increase in the mass flow rate. So this is the way this entire performance characteristic curve is observed, and these are in between the dotted lines shows the constant efficiency lines. And if you see that if we see the another extreme of this characteristic curve, then at point number 3 the characteristic curve become almost vertical. So here we cannot further increase the mass flow rate, and the pressure ratio decreases here. So this is the phenomena, this is the point that was choking, that we cannot go beyond this for increase in the mass flow rate. Mass flow rate cannot be increased. So this is the choking phenomena which happens at higher RPMs. So that is the end of today's lecture as well as end of this chapter. Thank you for watching this video.